All right, guys, let's take an updated look at the NCAA tournament bubble as of Friday, March 8th. I'm going to be putting an updated video out every day until the NCAA tournament comes out, as the bubble shrinks, as these teams change. But let's go ahead and get into it. Last four buys at the moment, I've got Michigan State and Mississippi State, FAU, and New Mexico. Out of these four, I think Michigan State and FAU are in no matter what. Mississippi State was in almost borderline lock category, but they're slowly creeping down to being a bubble team. New Mexico trending up. New Mexico kind of going to depend on what does the tournament selection committee think of the Mountain West. All right, looking at FAU real quick, 23-7, wins over Arizona, Butler, Loyola. I think they're in no matter what. They've also got that resume from last year to kind of help them out with that Final Four run. All right, the New Mexico, 22-8, wins over multiple tournament teams here. LA Tech, San Diego State, Utah State, Colorado State, all tournament teams, and then good losses to St. Mary's and Boise. Last four in, I've got Seton Hall, Indiana State, UNLV, James Madison. Indiana State, them and Drake, either one of them could go here. Drake has the better resume, but I think if both of them win out and meet in the championship, they're both in. Let's go ahead and talk about Seton Hall. 19-11, wins over Marquette and UConn. That's going to really separate them here. Because when you look at the other Big East teams that we're going to talk about in a minute, none of them have wins over both Marquette and UConn. That UConn win is going to separate them from a lot of these other teams that have beaten Marquette and Creighton, but that UConn win is just a little different. So Seton Hall, I think, will be in. All right, Indiana State, next up, like I said, them or Drake, one of them is getting in, I think, as far as the non-automatic qualifier. The thing that needs to happen for them, the winner obviously needs to win the conference tournament. They're going to automatically be in. The loser needs to get to that conference tournament championship and then lose to the other one. Drake does have a slightly better resume win-wise, but Indiana State has those losses to Alabama and Michigan State, which are tournament teams. I think you got to reward them for scheduling tough out of conference. Next, UNLV. All right, another thing similar with New Mexico, it's going to come down to what do they think of the Mountain West. All right, they've got a lot of losses, 10 losses, but tough out-of-conference schedule as well kind of helps them there. You've got wins over San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State, New Mexico, and Creighton, all tournament teams. And then losses out-of-conference-wise, you got Richmond and St. Mary's, and then a bunch of them in conference. So Richmond and St. Mary's, not a bad out-of-conference loss at all. All right, and then last on this last four in, I've got James Madison. All right, them and Appalachian State, currently both kind of in play for the Sun Belt Conference title. Appalachian State beat James Madison twice in conference play. All right, it's tough to beat a team three times, but I think Appalachian State at the moment is who I'm going to have as my automatic qualifier. And so James Madison would come to the bubble. I think Appalachian State may actually have a better resume if it comes to bubble conversation. So you might would rather have James Madison win if you're hoping for two teams in the Sun Belt, but that win over Michigan State is going to help James Madison out, I think, and get them in the tournament. All right, first four out, I've got Providence, Memphis, Virginia, and Colorado. Providence, one of those mini Big East teams I've been talking about. Them, St. John's, Villanova, Butler. It's going to come down to kind of what do they do in the tournament, all right, the conference tournament. If one of them can make a run to, say, the semis of the championship, that's going to pad their wins, get them over 20 wins, and probably get them in the tournament. Providence got wins over Creighton, Wisconsin, and Marquette, and losses to UConn and Oklahoma. Then you got Memphis, 22-8, wins over FAU, Virginia, A&M, BCU, and Clemson. Only tournament teams there are FAU and Clemson, though, which I think is going to hurt them. Memphis is talented enough to play with anybody. Just take last week, for example. They were up down by 20 against UAB in the first half. They end up winning by 20 and being up 20 in the second half. They're a team with highs and lows. They can play with anybody. They can also lose to anybody. All right, but also Memphis going to need a serious run in the American Conference, though. Virginia, 21-9. They're probably going to maybe get in, depending on what they do this weekend, tomorrow, and in the tournament. They've got too little of losses to kind of keep them out, but keep them out for me, committee. Nobody wants to watch Virginia score 20 points and lose. They've got wins over Clemson and Florida, tournament-wise, and then A&M, and then losses to North Carolina, Duke, not bad losses, then Wisconsin and Memphis, but Memphis should be in over them, in my opinion, if you want to go head-to-head value a little bit. All right, and then Colorado, they're trending towards being in with a good Pac-12 run. Colorado should be in the tournament, but currently they're not. They're right outside for me. 21-9, wins over Washington State, Utah, Oregon, and Richmond. Really talented team. I wouldn't want to play Colorado. All right, next four out. We got Villanova, Butler, A&M, and Ohio State. Villanova 17-13. I think eventually you got to just dock them for having this many losses. Yes, they have some good wins. You can see them on your screen. North Carolina, Tech, Memphis, and Creighton. But 13 losses is not an easy task to do. And if you have that many losses, you probably shouldn't be in the NCAA tournament. I don't think Villanova is going to be in. But depending on what them and Butler do, they could end up getting in, similar with Providence, depending on what they do in the Big East tournament. Butler 18-13, wins over Creighton, Boise State, Texas Tech, and Marquette. Losses to UConn and FAU, but similar situation. I think you got to dock them for having so many losses. All right, Texas A&M, depending on what they do in the SEC tournament, they could see themselves getting in if they can get closer to 20 wins. Wins over Iowa State, Kentucky, Tennessee, all three really good teams. Then losses to Houston, Alabama, South Carolina, all really good teams as well. All right, and then we've got Ohio State, all right, sitting at 18-12 with a good run in the Big Ten tournament. I think similar to last year, I think Ohio State's going to get in. What's really going to separate them? Yes, they had that win over Purdue recently. They're rolling right now, but that win over Alabama and non-conference at the beginning of the year is going to help them out, I think, in the long run. All right, the teams that I did not discuss that are trending up currently are Pitt and St. John's. With a couple more wins, they could see themselves featured on the next four out or even last four in category. And then trending down, we've got a lot of teams. Wake Forest, they're kind of reeling at the moment. They can't win away from home. Oregon, tough loss last night to Oregon State. Oregon, tough loss. Utah, also a tough loss. Syracuse, all right, they're heading down. And then VCU, they've lost a few in a row. Otherwise, VCU really could have an argument for being in. But all these teams are trending down right now, but it's not too late. They're still in the bubble, but slowly seeing themselves creep out of that conversation. If I was to mark one of these teams out of conversation completely, I would probably say Oregon, and probably VCU are completely out of conversation. But looking back at this, sorry, my voice left me. Looking back at this, let me know your last four in at the moment. All right, if the tournament was to start today, who's your last four in? Who is not on this list that was not discussed today that you think needs to be in the bubble conversation? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe.